Hi everybody, this is Team Royal Flush with our next episode of Talking TCG. We've got a kind of interesting episode we're going to go through. We just had our Yu-Gi-Oh! North American International Championships, basically the first championship series since the pandemic in Chicago. And we have one of our very own locals who went and participated, and we're here to kind of do a deck profile and interview and tell us what it is. So go ahead and introduce yourself and what deck you played, and we'll get started with the interview.
Alright, so my name is Bryan. I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Since about the start of 2018, right around when Lynx came out. The deck I brought to Nationals was the same deck I qualified with, which would be Adagnister. And that's basically how it is. I've been playing Adagnister for 9 months. I've been basically playing a going first variant over the going second ones that are popular. And I found decent success with it, not so much at the national level. There were some deck choices that I made that probably could have done better, and I can talk about them after the profile.
So let's go ahead and get right into the profile, and we'll kind of show off the deck and what choices you made for your specific build for going first.
So first and foremost, you always run the 3 copies of every starter, which you got 3 Picari and 3 Achichi. These are your best starters, and 100% you want to see them every game. It's slightly better to start Picari if you have extra extension, because he can actually search the field spell, and if they want to hand trap the Link 1, then you search the field spell with this.
Definitely 3 of each.
Definitely 3 of each. You can't run less.
No 2-copy variant.
Nope.
3 and 3.
3 and 3.
Never change it.
Yep.
Never changes. I was only on 1 Doyon and 1 Buru. I've considered bumping the Doyon up to 2. It is the most important part of the deck when you want to keep comboing every turn. And this kind of doesn't happen if you get DD crowed. So I was on 1 because I wanted to fit more hand traps in my list, so that's basically it. Obviously you have to have at least 1 of each though. Buru is your synchro play and Doyon is your infinite play, so you need these. I was on the Hiyari Gachiri package. So what I liked about this package specifically over just like running the dark level one is that you can actually make protected access code lines for easy lethality that is uninteractable by your opponent. I just don't like the dark level one just being a normal like special. Hiyari typically is better than that because it searches the Gachiri for you.
That's basically it for main deck Adagnisters.
That is it for main deck Adagnisters. I was on just a sweep of like 10...
8 copies? 10?
10 Adagnister names, basically, yeah. So,
1/4
of the deck are names for Adagnister, and then we get into the round up the monsters with these hand traps. The ratios will be a little bit awkward because I was on a cross-out designator lineup. So I was on 1 Veiler, 2 Ash, 2 Ghost Mourner, 2 Ogre, 2 Nibiru, and 2 Gamma with the driver.
Pretty large hand trap lineup.
Pretty
with a
large.
lot of different names.
I also had the 2 Imperms as well. So lots and lots of hand traps for this specific build. And again, this is all for crossout. Aside from maybe Mortar, not many people are on this card. I was running this as an out for Branded in Red and Branded Banishment. It's an easy way to deal with Guardian Chimera not making you go super minus. So this is more of a protection play, while everything else is something you don't want to have hit you in the matchups.
So similar to back in the day with Ghost Reaper, running your single target in the extra deck.
Yeah.
Just so that you can stop their targets from going off.
Yes.
Kind
Very
of
similar to
a more
that.
diverse hand trap package because of the crossout.
Yeah.
Which I personally like as a deck build. I think that's a fun, more unique strategy than just the 3 of this and 3 of that, and here's all my hand traps.
Yeah. So running more hand traps and adding Mr. names feels pretty great. So for the spells, I guess I'll go into the rest of the starters first. So 3 I Meet Yous. If I can pull these out. 3 I Meet Yous and 3 Sign Up Minings. These are the other starters in the deck because they search you your other Adagnister names that start the combo. So basically the deck is on a 12 starter lineup. The only problem with I Meet You is that it will burn you for damage. So you do lose in time if you play this starter specifically. It never came up in the tournament. Most of my games were relatively quick and I finished in like 10 to 15 minutes every round. But it can come up in the later stages if games get more complicated.
There's still 9 starters that are pretty free.
Yeah, no, 12 actually, yeah, 12.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, without the burn.
Yeah, without the burn.
12 starters is pretty strong.
Pretty strong, yeah. So then we're on the 3 field spell. We run 3 mainly because if you see it in your opening hand, it's 1 less choke point in the deck you have to worry about. This is really good to open. I'm not on the eye contact like other lists might be. I just feel like having the extra field spell in case one gets cosmicked is really, really useful. So having an eye contact that would shuffle it away and then your opponent chains contact would actually like ruin the deck. So I decided not to take it, expecting to see cosmics in the format. So yeah.
Cosmic's pretty relevant right now because of all the Mystic Minds going around.
Yep.
So fair play. And do you play the Terraforming to Search as well?
I do,
so
in fact, play the
copies?
Terraforming. Yeah, so we do have 4 copies of that. Then we have the 2 Reborns of the deck. We have Idle Reborn and Fighting Spirit. It used to be on 2 Idle Reborns, but now that Fighting Spirit came out in Brothers of Legend, it's just the better ratio to run 1 of each. Idle Reborn gives you recursion in the attack declaration, and Fighting Spirit can protect your monsters if you have a lot of Adagnisters on the field. I'd say, though, most of the time you're using Idle Reborn in combination with the Doyon to make your infinite combos. So 100% like Idle Reborn in phase Doyon, return Idle Reborn, and then you link it off to get the Idle Reborn back is probably the best thing that the deck does in grind games. And then Fighting Spirit obviously is just a Reborn, so most of the time the Banish effect never comes up, but if it did, that'd be pretty cool. Worth mentioning, the Banish effect does not work on the Link 6. So don't try it.
Good to know.
Then we got the 3 crossout designators and the 1 of Called By. This is why we're on so many hand traps, and Called By is the best card in the game, so you should be running it in every deck you play.
Your reason it's at 1.
Yeah. With the amount of hand traps in the game, and the amount of hand traps I was expecting to see at Nats, I definitely appreciated having this, but I would say rather than running cross-out lineup, if I had taken a back row hate lineup plus the 1 Called By, it probably would have gone better for me.
Lots of floodgates.
There were so many floodgates this format, and Nats especially.
Yeah, I think being the first major national tournament after 2-3 years almost.
Yeah.
A lot of people kind of didn't know exactly what to expect, and floodgates are fairly simple to put together and fairly simple to run, and a good kind of security blanket over a whole bunch of different decks. So
the other issue is it's like a lot of main decks don't have an out to back row card.
yeah,
Built into the archetype.
I was going to say built into the archetype, especially with monster effects, because most of the floodgates stop monsters, and a lot of the main deck archetypes are very monster heavy.
Yep. Alright, so we can get into the extra deck real quick. Ooh, almost missed one. Okay, so we're on 2 synchros, Cyber's Quantum and Wind Pegasus. When Pegasus is the standard synchro that you're going to summon in your combo, it also insulates you if they have outs to your board, which is typically just the one monster. Against some matchups, you're going to want to change the Link 6, being 6,000, to make a 4,000 and a Cybers Quantum, which is exactly why we're on the Hiyari engine. Because the Hiyari engine allows you to 100% of the time get this unaffected. And that's super important because then they have to beat over this twice before they can even begin to touch your Link 6. And if you have a Nibiru in the hand, that's an OTK. Then we got our anti-Nibiru Link 1 and our Trap Negate Link 1. These are really useful. Link Spider, obviously, if they Nibiru you on the 5th summon, you're just going to play this and keep comboing. There's no reason not to. The Trap Negate is really useful against the Eldritch matchup because it tributes for cost and plays under Skill Drain. Outside of that, there's not much more to talk about these guys. Link Garibo's Graveyard Effect never really comes up. We're on 2 copies of the Dark Infant because the only way to reliably 1.5 a 6K is to run 2. You could run 3. I just have a very tight extra deck, so I'm sticking with the 2 for now. Ratios on the extra deck are basically probably the same, even if I edit it for Nats, for post-Nats format. Then our combo Link 2s, we have Splash Mage and Cybers Wicked. Wicked gets you your Buru and keeps combo going. Splash Mage is immediately after that play. So if anyone's ever seen the Ad-Ignister combo, it goes Wicked, search Buru, Link into Splash Mage, summon Buru, and then full combo. We have a Security Dragon in here, has an out to Masquerade, outs a lot of recursion effects, Qing Ying, the Sword Soul that can't be destroyed by battle. This outs it. It's just a really good card to be running. It also can be an extra way to go into play through Nibiru if you've already expended your Spider. Then we have our Fire Monster to search for a Chi-Chi. That's going to be Heat Soul. I chose Heat Soul over the Fire Phoenix because having the extra draw is super important. And in a grind game where you can't full combo, playing Heat Soul Control with a bunch of hand traps is perfectly valid.
It's a strong card,
Yeah.
for sure.
That's what Sal is doing,
Yeah.
right?
Then we have our Dark Templar and our rival Cybers. Obviously these guys go hand in hand. When the deck first came out, we didn't have this guy, and then as soon as this guy came out, we immediately knew the direction the deck was going to go. So obviously making this 6K in this past format was the best thing to do. None of the decks that I won against at Nuts had any outs to this, and we just immediately went into the next game. It's just an absolutely insane kind of blowout kind of card. No one's on Kaijus in this format. If you expect to see Kaijus in your local scene, definitely consider the Cybers Quantum setup. And then we have the standard access code transcode update gemmer line. This is super easy to set up in Ad-Ignister. Just the way the field spells and the searches work. You're almost guaranteed this off of any starter. And even if you have 2 cards that aren't even starters, as long as they're Ad-Ignister names, you can make this every time. And then if you have Hiyari, you can chain block the Kachiri to make access code unaffected, which makes him a protected combo line. Really good lethality in this deck if you're going second.
Very strong looking extra deck lineup.
Yeah.
Pretty solid.
Pretty solid, pretty standard, exactly what you would expect to see. Yeah.
Kind of does what it does.
Yeah. Into the side, there were some questionable choices I made, and looking back at it, I probably shouldn't have run some of these, so I'll talk about them as I go on. The first big red flag is Artifact Lancia. I thought maybe it would come up, and I basically never cited this card in. It would have been better to have maybe Cosmics, Twin Twisters, anything other than this, for sure.
What was your reason for it?
My main reason for it was for, like, if I saw Flu and they de-shifter me, I literally cannot play the game. But what, me being a dummy here, and, like, I can't, the de-shifter does linger until the end of the next turn, so it turns out that this was just a terrible idea.
A little bit of an oversight.
A little bit of an oversight for sure. Shouldn't have been on this card. It's not good against Despia. Like, sure, Despia has some banishes, but they almost never come up. Sword Soul can Pot of Desires, but if you're playing this to stop a Pot of Desires, it's probably not worth it. Yeah, just it was a bad option for sure. And then we talked about the best side deck choice, which is Stroll and Lockbird. This card won me an entire match against Plunder. Really, really good card. I would recommend running it, especially if you're expecting to see Flunders. It just auto wins the match. Also, super good crossout target. You can expect people to side in Droll against you, so if you're already on the crossout, you can just cross out Droll. The auto win against Sword Soul, everyone's seen it, it's Token Collector. It also is really good against the Brave matchup. They can't negate things, they can't bounce things as easily.
Only 2 just because it was kind of tight.
Yeah, it was a little bit tight. You can run 3, absolutely, but there's so many, when you're siding with this deck,
Yeah.
you need to play so many hand traps for crossout that most of the time you're sliding in and out hand traps based on their viability against the decks you're playing against. Then we have everyone's favorite card, 3 copies of Mystic Mine. You slide this in going second. You need to resolve your first 2 searches on Ad Ignister. And if you've seen any of the going second variants, they main this, because searching with your first starter and then searching with your Link 1 and then placing your field spell over the Mystic Mine is full combo through 3 negates. So you should be 100% on this going second until it gets banned. We have some back row hate with the Harpy's Feather Dust and Red Reboot. This is what I mean by I clearly was not prepared for Nats. I also had some back row hate in the 2 Evenlies. I was not expecting the amount of floodgates that would be at Nats. I saw Tikaboo, I saw Anti-Spell, there's just...
In the main.
In the mains, yeah. It was a little bit...
Keynote, there's the shock of in the main.
Yeah. Definitely would say that floodgates won the event. And if you looked at any of the lists that were in the top 64, all of them were maining at least some kind of floodgate. So definitely consider either playing floodgates or playing outs to floodgates. Would highly recommend Twin Twisters Cosmic, as those can respond to the anti-spell as soon as it happens.
At least for another 2 weeks here until the format change.
Yeah.
Yeah, Power of the Elements is going to affect a lot of decks.
And then the last 2 is the D barriers. Every time I slided this in, I never saw it. But also at the same time, you only slide this in going first with Ad Ignister, and your going first turn is basically an auto win against the current format, and it's probably still going to be good in the next format. I expect it to be fine. Sprites don't have any main, or I guess Sprites. Sprites don't have any main deck outs to the 6K unaffected, so there's no reason to like change your going first plans.
What decks did you side Dimensional Barrier in?
Sword Soul and Despia for sure, but you could just take them out and add more back row removal, because going first they still don't have an out to the Arrival Cybers. Neither of those decks can kill it. The biggest thing you can see from a Qixing or Qingying is like maybe 4 or 5K. That's not nearly big enough. And then the biggest a Titaniclad can get is 4,600 off of the Owl Beyond the Shrouded and a level 8. So again, no reason to like be playing this card. This was probably an oversight as well. I just assumed it would be nice little auto win kind of thing, but I was already auto winning, so this is more of a win more. And that is the profile. So,
solid list.
yeah, definitely some changes could have been made to attempt to go a little bit farther, but I think the list is good enough to go at least 5 rounds, right? So can't complain there. And it won plenty of side events. I won 2 Winamats, and I got really close to winning a couple of others, so I was really happy with the performance, at least in the side events.
So, perfect 5 opening hand going first. What do you want to see?
You want to
perfect
see
opening 5.
1.5 starters, so maybe one of your starters and a different name. And then on top of that, any 3 hand traps that are blowouts. So like you want to see maybe an Ash Blossom, maybe a Nibiru, Imperm, Veiler. Like if you can see 1.5 and any amount of hand traps, you're really good. You can trade out any of those hand traps for a cross out to insulate your combo as well. But basically 1.5 represents the 6K. Anything less than that is 4K, and it's a little bit scary. So that's why you run so many starters. But the hand traps can definitely change how the deck plays. Nibiru does not tribute the 6K unaffected, so this is literally just you summon a Nibiru and tribute your opponent's board, not yours, right? And so if you're only making 4K, you really, really want to see this to insulate yourself. Because the only deck that doesn't summon more than 5 times to try and out a 4K arrival is Flunder, and they've already lost at 4K. So there's no point in going any bigger than that. But yeah, definitely some form of hand trap combination or a crossout and 2 hand traps with 1.5. 1.5 can look anything like any of the 12 starters I talked about, being Sign Up Mining, Chi-Chi, Picari, or I Meet You, and then any other Ad Ignister name that is not the same copy. So.
Okay.
I like that double-sided Nibiru.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's mean.
it is very mean. Nibiru not tributing the arrival cybers makes it very mean. For sure. And I do appreciate that I got to do it on this Nibiru mat.
Yeah, very pretty championship playmat for our North American Invitational or International Championships. So for those who are unfamiliar with an At Ignister deck and all the combos and everything they do you want to show off like going infinite and going into that 6K?
Alright, yeah, we can do that. So let's go ahead and I can just...
Yeah,
do you want to do like a test hand, or do you want me to pick
test
one?
Hand, or
I guess I can just do it with... I'll do the standard combo with just 1 card real quick. 1 card still sets up infinite. All you need is a Chi-Chi or Picari. I'll do it with a Chi-Chi first. So you just normal summon him, and he searches out your... Picari. Gosh, I just like went right over Picari, didn't I? You link that off. This is all 1 card, so all off the back of 1 card. You don't need any other cards in your hand except the Chi-Chi or the Picari in this sense. So Infant will search your field spell, and then I like to call it the strongest field spell in the game. So basically the way this works is every time that you have no monsters in your main monster zone, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Ad Ignister from your hand. The only stipulation is that the monster you summon has to have a different attribute each time when you use this effect to summon it. So you special the Picari and he searches your spell cards.
Ultimate Offering?
special summon ultimate offering.
Right?
Not normal summon.
Oh man, it's really good. And then you don't have to pay life points for it. With the Picari, you're going to grab the card that helps you go infinite, which is the Idol Reborn. I'm not on the Don Mari, and the reason for that is because it's easier to guarantee yourself infinite if you just ignore that that card exists. Also, the card's really bad going first. Like a super hard brick in your hand. Or going second, I mean. So we're going to link those two off into the Wicked. The Wicked is how you're going to get your Buru. So you go Idol Reborn, target any of the monsters that aren't links, and summon the Picari. The reason we're not targeting links is because we're going to banish the link to search for the Buru, and we want to have as many attributes in the grave as possible here. So we're going to get that Buru out, and then we link those two off into a copy of Splash Mage. So you want to make sure here that you always use this effect to summon Buru before you Splash Mage anything, because you want to have no monsters in your zones. So Buru has the effect to dump from deck to grave, and that's how we're going to get our Doyon there. And Splash Mage will bring it back. It's negated right now, but once we Synchro Summon, Buru has a second effect to revive that Synchro Summon material. So we'll get our Wind Pegasus for insulation, and Buru will bring back the Doyon. Doyon has two effects, one where he adds back on Special Summon a monster that's at Ignister, and then one again when you link 3 here. When he's used as a link material, which you'll use him as a link material for Dark Templar, he gets to add back a Spell Trap, which will be the Idol Reborn. Since you normal summon the Achichi, you can still special summon it off of Island, so you'll do that. And then Dark Templar will special summon 2 more different attributes, and this is the standard 1 card 4K line. So you're going to make a Link 6 using a Link 3 as a base, 3 plus 3 is 6. And that's how you get a 4000. And how you go infinite from here is you set this Idol Reborn. It's chainable if they targeted it. So you, but typically you'll go end phase, Idol Reborn, summon your Doyon. Doyon gets back any of your starters, typically Picari, because it searches the other Reborn. And then on your next turn, you're just going to link it off to add back Idol Reborn, and that's 3 summons that you didn't have to worry about. So, really, really good, for sure. 6K looks exactly the same. The only difference is depending on which of like the names you start with, whether it's Doyon, Buru, Hiyari, Ichiri, or Picari. You just use the Achichi to search whichever one you don't have, right? So like if I had Achichi and Buru, I'd use it to search the Hiyari, because this makes 6K, because it's a free special summon. If I had Achichi Hiyari, I still use it to search Picari. If I had Achichi, basically anything that isn't Picari, you search Hiyari, and then you do the same combo, and then Hiyari makes the 6K with the other Link 1. Something that will come up a lot when you're making 6K, however, after you do the same combo, so I can like rewind it a little bit here, pretend that he isn't here, is Dark Templar. When you link off the Achichi to go into this, the way this works is he activates at 20, he's a 2300 attack point monster. Dark Infant is an ignition effect. So you actually have to wait for your opponent to respond before you can activate this effect. It actually does not chain block. And basically his effect is when he has when a monster at 2300 activates, he can change his zone to the zone he points to and change his attribute. Right? Because Dark Templar specifies he summons his zones he points to without targeting, he gets to summon 3. So you would summon 3 different attributes from your grave, none of them being water, so you could special the water afterwards, after changing this to like divine or earth, it doesn't matter. Has to be one of those 2 though. And then with 6 attributes, dark, fire, light, and wind, and then earth or divine, and water, that's 6K. Right? But definitely the hardest part is this is a win effect. It does not trigger if your opponent has any response to this effect, so you have to be prepared for that.
So not always going into the 6K.
Not
but-
always going
but
to 6K.
Pretty consistently for the 4K.
Yes, very consistent for 4K, absolutely.
Still scary.
Very cool.
In the instance that you only summon 2, you can also make a Gachiri play by tributing this off with the Hiyari. But you still will only make 4K, and then a Gachiri protected something. Whether that's a Synchro monster with the Quantum, it's up to the player at that point.
And both of those, the 6,000 and the 4,000 were starting with 1 card in hand. So you still
One
have
card.
4 other cards
Yeah.
during your turn.
It's really, really good. Actually, the 6K is 1 and 1 other name. 4K is 1 card in hand, but it's really easy to expect to open 1 of 16 cards,
Yeah.
right? Like if you see a starter and a sign up mining, it's the same thing. It's 6K every time, right? Or you go for 6K every time.
Yeah.
6K is definitely the card that no one has an out for in this format, or I don't expect an outs in the next format. Depending on the ban list, whether floodgates get banned or not is a real toss-up. So I don't expect Konami to hit floodgates despite their immense prevalence at nationals. Instead, I would expect them to add back some more useful back row removal, but I'm not sure what exactly they're going to do.
I think most of our back row removal is at unlimited right now at 3 copies each.
Yeah.
The only ones that I think aren't are like counter traps like Red Reboot.
Mm-hmm. And Heavy Storm
Heavy Storm.
is banned right now.
And we do have Harpy's Feather Duster at 1
One.
copy.
Yeah.
But most everything else, Mystical Space Typhoon, Twin Twisters, Cosmic Cyclone,
Yeah.
are all 3 copies in each deck.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Got some more questions for
Very
me?
cool, yeah.
Thanks for sharing the deck and
Very,
profile
very cool
and
deck profile.
nice in-depth combo line there for those who aren't looking into it or just
And
curious.
I mean, for the most part, fairly inexpensive deck to build.
Absolutely. Like, what's shocking is like the deck core is roughly $30, but if you just ignore the most important one, it's only 20. This is like super expensive for no reason. It's one printing in rare in the same set that it has all the secret rares, and yet this is the most expensive one. Don't ask me why. TCG player's weird.
Because it's a rare.
It's a rare. I don't know if it has something. Maybe there's some other decks that are splashing it in.
Maybe.
It's a level 4 wind. So
Level
maybe
3
they're
tuner.
Level 3. Yeah, level 3 tuner wind. There's probably some decks that are maybe
Yeah.
using that somewhere. But
It's a key part.
Yeah.
We need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the tournament, the championship series, what was your favorite deck to play against, and which deck was your least favorite to play against?
My favorite deck to play against was probably Sword Soul. Like, the deck is fairly fair per se. It's like probably the most fair deck in the format. You can expect to see 2 negates and 2 pops at most, and most of the time you can play through more than that or hand trap them out of that, right? Outside of that, I would say
Just gonna show off our
yeah.
cards
Rarity.
while we're here.
Yeah, I did rarity upgrade it. The reason the core is super inexpensive is because of the megatins for sure. But yeah, like Sword Soul, you can normally play through it or hand trap them, so that way they like set up less interaction with you, and depending on your hands, you can just like go off, right? I did not lose to any of the Sword Soul decks at the. I lost mainly to Flunder and Despia. The Despia matchup typically is easy, but when they're main decking anti-spell, it's not. You definitely need to resolve your field spell. So, setting a field spell face down against Despia is like not going to do anything. Anti-spell definitely hosed me in all of my Despia matchups. And then Flunder, the reason I hate playing against Flunder, and the reason it's my least favorite deck to play against, is because the games are decided by your die roll. If you roll the dice and you win the die roll, you win the game. and if you lose the die roll, you lose the game. There's the only times that does not happen is if one player bricks, which is hard for both decks to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the games are fast. You'll be done with your match in 10 minutes, but it's not interactive. It's not anything really. It's just, did I open combo? And if I did, I win. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see how Power of the Elements affects the meta, because not only do we get a lot of support for some older decks, but we are also getting brand new archetypes into the TCG. We've already seen what some of those archetypes' impact is in OCG games.
Yeah.
So with different ban lists,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how. I mean, Splight is very good in OCG.
Yeah.
They also have 3 Max C, who's
Yes.
a level 2 to go with their deck, and they just have a completely different play style than the TCG format does. So
I will say I've been trying Sprite a lot just online. It's been a lot of fun to play. I've been playing combo variants very often with it. It's also looking to be a very affordable deck outside of like specifically Totally Awesome. So if you're okay with playing the deck without Totally Awesome, all of the main deck negates are still playable, and it looks to be a very inexpensive deck to build, for sure.
I mean, you might as well learn to play without Toad, right? Or speculation for
Yeah.
it to be on the ban list.
Yeah.
yeah, Toad very possibly could get hit because of Sprite, whatever the translation is going to be.
Yeah.
Or maybe just Splight Blue gets hit from 3 to 1 or something. Come October after we've seen the quarter 3 format
YCS.
play. Yeah.
YCS expect
we do
to see
have
it.
what Niagara coming up.
Still-
Possibly before October, ban list would hit.
Yeah. I'm still
And-
considering to go to that. I really do want to.
Supposedly there was, I don't remember where I saw it. I think it's actually on. We won't get a ban list until December, possibly.
No,
No
that's not
way.
necessarily true. They updated the list. It was a talk. It was the talk of nationals, basically saying that if they said next ban list in the next few months, so I would 100% expect to see.
Before December.
Oh, they did update it. Yep.
Yeah.
So on the official, Yu-Gi-Oh card, Yu-Gi-Oh-card.com. This is for the UK site, but it did say at one point the next update after this will be no earlier than December.
No.
And they have since updated to the next update after this will be no earlier than a few months from now. And
Yeah.
that was effective on May
2022.
May of 2022. So we will see what they actually update.
Yeah, definitely expect if anything gets hit, like
Yeah, but that was actually the next question coming up. A lot of people from that event were saying that Mystic Mine was a very powerful card.
oh.
Did you run
gosh.
into that, and how do you feel about that?
So I did run into it. It was in a game 2, thankfully. So it was in a game 2 against Flunder. I hand trapped them, and they just played a mine. And I was like, okay. Thankfully, it's game 2. I'd already sighted in my mines, so I was able to cross out it and just play.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? And that's one really good, interesting thing about crossout is that mine, anti-spell, if you're running those cards, you can also cross out those cards. Because
A
it
lot of people
negates them.
oversight that. They can just hit more than just hand traps.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Crossout Designator was a big MVP in that event, especially for side events. If I was on anti-spell, I probably would have had more crossout targets, right? 100% one insane card for sure. Kind of
speculate to get banned.
I don't know if they'll ban Mystic Mine. Here in the TCG, we're pretty lax on the deck. But with the prevalence of it, I could expect it to at least get hit at some point, like maybe down to 1. Similar to Magical Midfield. It's
Yeah.
just a blowout field spell that no one wants to play against. So
I think the major difference why Mystic Mind hasn't been hit, number one, no large events in the last couple of years. And so
No.
your local scene and your remote duel scene has been having to deal with it because we haven't had any large-scale tournaments due to the pandemic in the last couple of years. Secondly, Mystic Mind has its own out built into it, whereas Magical Midbreaker Field does not.
Yes.
It just sits and stops your opponent. Mine, you can play around even without spell and trap removal until they build the entire deck around it, and then play things like Field Barrier or what's the one that puts the counter on it?
oh gosh,
Spell something, Kaiba.
Field barrier.
Well,
No,
Field
it's-
Barrier is the continuous spell. There's also
there's a spell card that puts a counter on it to prevent it being destroyed once.
yeah. I don't remember which card it is, but
I don't know either, but definitely the fact that it was in not only Mystic Mind dedicated decks, but also burn decks, or meta decks. I mean, geez.
Yeah.
The fact that it was in Flunder, it was in Sword Soul, it was in Despia. I saw 2 or 3 lists of Despia running the 9. Definitely could expect to see it get hit. I was on mine. It was in my side, but I should have considered main decking it because of how prevalent it was. And it could have been a cross-out target for me.
I think a lot of people seeing the results did have that same change of mind.
Yeah.
Should be playing it in the
Yeah.
main.
Yeah. It is
It is very powerful.
very, very powerful. It definitely, like, the only way I could see you losing with Mystic Mine in your main is if your deck dies to Nibiru and then you get Nibiru'd. Well, unfortunately, mine can't save you because you both have one monster at that point. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Magic Reflector is the card I was thinking of.
Magic Reflect.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Target one face-up spell card you control, place a counter on it. If it would ever be destroyed, remove the counter instead. So, yeah, not as... I mean, almost kind of better than Field Barrier, but not really, because Field Barrier prevents your opponent from playing a new field spell as well. So that stops the mirror match and Mystic Mind plays. Anyway,
I guess besides like the gameplay itself, how did you feel about the event?
I thought the event
Experience.
was amazing, and I loved every second of it. It was my first Nats. I mean, I've only been on this is the first year that I've really been on such a heavy meta deck before. Like at Ignister, you can call it tier 2, tier 3, whatever you want, but this deck has no outs once it sets up its board in the format, so it is, I would 100% consider it meta. There was one list, it was the going second list in top 32. I would say though, if you want to make an unaffected Bungus, Marincus has far more interaction. So if you want to make one giant monster, Marincus is probably the play, and it did get 4th, so expect those prices to go up continually.
that Mako Duelist pack gave some good Marincus and generic water support.
Yeah.
And just in time for world premiere Goatee archetype
Oh yeah.
to come
Water.
out with more water support. So that'll be fun with we get world premiere archetypes, we get OCG archetypes. Power of the Elements is I think it's going to have a very large impact on the next couple of formats.
Yeah.
Just with
Oh,
the
definitely.
different cards and archetypes that are coming out in it.
There's some nice generic cards in there.
Yeah. The only hiccup at the event, because it was that I noticed, was the bathroom situation. There was one bathroom with 6 stalls and 9 urinals.
And how many people were there? 1,800?
That's 1,840 people for the main event.
Yeah.
That's
1,840 people who had signed up as participating duelists for the main event.
For the
That's
main
not-
event.
That's not family members who were there to support. That's not judges or
No.
event staff.
and that's not even including the Dragon Duelist. Though I will say, if you're a Dragon Duelist and you're watching this video, or you qualify for it next year, 100% I beg your parents to take you to the next Nationals. There were 11 Dragon Duelists, and they tabled for 100. They had more prizing than they had players.
Oh, wow.
It was literally if you were a Dragon Duelist and you qualified, you made money. So, for just showing up. Definitely, think about that. There's going to be large-scale events next year, so maybe there'll be more competition. I don't know for sure, but absolutely, if you're a Dragon Duelist, come to the next Nationals. For sure.
Yeah, I
Good
mean,
advice.
they've been trying to. I mean, in reality, it is in essence a children's card game
Yeah.
that we play. So yeah, they are definitely trying to give support and show, hey, we want the younger crowd to come and play and have fun as well, without having to play against
Mm-hmm.
people who have the money to buy these big expensive meta decks.
Yeah.
I think Dragon Duel, is it 12 and younger or 14
14 and younger.
14 and younger.
So if you're 14 and younger, you should
Yeah.
look into
And
that.
for a nationals events, you do still have to qualify
Yep.
at a Dragon Duel regional event first to be able to play in a national with your invite.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the last regionals I went to, there were, I think, were 2
Yep, and they both got
that
invites.
listed in the Dragon Duel, and so they just automatically got their invites just for showing up.
Yep.
So
Besides, I guess, the experience, do you have a favorite moment from the whole thing?
Favorite moment has to be round 3. I sit down and I'm playing against a normal matchup. I lost the match. It was against one of the Despias that's main decking anti-spell. But the people next to me was a Flunder Mirror. Oh, and it was a beautiful match to watch. Because me and the Despia player, we were just chilling. I'm at Ignister, he's Despia. We both know what each other's decks do. And we're just chilling, basically. And I lost to anti-spell. I was like, okay. But that Flunder Mirror was hilarious. It was the #1 rule shark I've ever seen in my life on one end, and the most chill Flunder player dude on the other. I think there was a judge call 5 times in that round, and eventually it got to the point where the judge asked me and the Despia player what is actually happening in their game, because we're paying more attention to their game than our own game. So it was super funny. I think the Flunder player did get a match loss, and he might have been upgraded to a suspension, but I left after our match. So it was funny.
Very interesting. Very interesting favorite moment.
Yeah, it was a really funny moment for sure. Absolutely great.
once again, we haven't had any large tournaments the last couple of years, so you don't know. We're all kind of rusty and out of practice for large events like that, and some of us it shows more than others. But
It's a really big event, so there's really cool things that can be bought, sold.
Yeah.
Interesting things to see in general. Did you pick up anything cool besides all of the invitational things?
Oh gosh.
Any spicy?
I bought these Master Duel sleeves while I was there. So I'm a huge fan of Master Duel. Unfortunately, I did not get to meet Coder while I was out there. I would really love to. I'm a big fan of his channel, and I watch all of his Master Duel content. But these sleeves are only obtainable typically through a sweepstakes service that that the Yu-Gi-Oh company does, and they're only available every time they run a Master Duel event. So they're really hard to come by. There's only been 6 events in Master Duel, and only so many people get these sweepstakes sleeves. So on eBay there was $300 to $350. One of the vendors had them for $250. So I wailed a little bit. I to put down $250 to pick up some shiny sleeves.
how many was that for your 250?
That was 100 sleeves,
100 sleeves.
for $250.
It was just for your extra deck, 15 sleeves.
Right. Absolutely.
They're beautiful.
They are.
Absolutely beautiful.
They are so pretty, and 100% if you're a fan of the game, and they are planning on running or making an esports track in it by the end of this year, so definitely look into that. This is a really fun game, and the ban list is obviously moment for contention for a lot of people, but I enjoy that it's completely chaotic.
Well,
So-
one of the things I like about Master Duel is is the events that they run, because it affects the ban list and makes it, okay, you can play 3 of this card. Except right now you can't, because our event is 1 of everything.
Yeah.
So now you have to build a different deck, and you have to think outside the box and play different strategies.
I can't believe they've limited Bean Soldier.
Bean Soldier finally got hit on the list, and he's at 1.
It was a good one. And then the other thing I did buy was this Appaloosa mat. They also had it at the tabling for 50 tickets, but for the most part, because I was willing to spend so much money, most of my tickets went with the people I traveled with. So I did buy this Appaloosa mat. It's a mat that I've wanted for a very long time. I obviously was not skilled enough 2 years ago to win this, but I love this monster. I love the mat. It just looks super nice to me.
Looks
it's a
way
very
better
pretty,
in person.
Yeah, the camera does not do it justice. It's a very pretty. My favorite part is the kind of Celtic Gaelic.
The center,
You can kind of just the detail on each card zone.
Yeah.
You have these corners with the they're not just a regular rectangle. They've got the little accents on them.
But the bear.
I know.
The bear.
And the bear. And the bow.
The bear, the bow, the goddess herself. Like, it's such a deep green in person. I know a lot of photos of this can take really awkward, like light lime green photos, but it's a
really
very
good shade of green.
really good shade of green. I love this mat so
Yeah,
much.
this was it says right there, World Championship Qualifier Regional 2020. This was just before
Nationals.
before we
COVID.
shut down from before
That's a COVID.
we had to go to exclusive remote duel, and most of our large events were canceled. And so
I
a little bit of
absolutely
a
love
history.
this.
It's going to have some historical legacy behind it, in addition to it being.
This also is one of the last mats to have the Kazuki Takahashi copyright
Yep.
because they changed their copyright, if you look at the Nibiru mat, to the TV Tokyo back in July of 2020. The copyright shifted.
Yep.
So
I think we talked about that in one of our previous episodes. I think it was Mystic Fighters or
whatever set that.
something like that. It was a
Hidden
side.
Summoners.
It was a side set, Hidden Summoners or Mystic Fighters or something like that. That we noticed on the bottom of the card, copyright 2020 Studio Dice Tokyo TV, instead of the copyright 1996 Kazuki Takahashi. Rest in peace. So yeah, it's a great pickup.
Yep, great pickup. Major
Really
piece of
cool
Yu-Gi-Oh
stuff.
history.
Was there anything there that you saw that you could have picked up but didn't just because it was too pricey, but something like really cool?
Oh my
Some
gosh.
special item?
Oh man, there were some really expensive cards. I'm trying to remember the one that Aaron pointed out to me. It was like an $1,800 ghost rare of something. I cannot remember, but yeah.
No, $1,800 Ghost Rare. My guess would be Stardust Dragon. Trying to think of what else might hit that price threshold in Ghost Rare.
Yeah.
Black Rose maybe.
Mint.
Mint.
Yeah,
First ed.
it was mint. PSA graded 9.5.
Well, yeah. PSA. You're automatically up in the price on that.
Yeah. Those are really, really cool things.
And then I guess just the final thing is for people looking to go to events like this, and you being a player who obviously got to go and play in this experience, enjoy it.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for those?
For advice, I would say the number one advice is definitely look for a hotel that is super close to the event center. And I don't mean like a 15-minute drive like I did. I think I've spent over $150 on just Ubers alone. And that's pretty big price tag to put on travel. So look for places within walking distance as much as you can. After further investigation, I found a hotel that was only $30 more expensive per night. That was only 2 blocks away from the venue, and I super regretted that I didn't find that hotel prior. So definitely do your due diligence, research really heavily about where you want to stay.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all your insight, and
And keep track of your stuff.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't been to any large events recently, but that's my advice for every event.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep track of your stuff.
And have fun, really. Honestly,
Yeah.
just have fun, enjoy it all. But anything else you want to add? Any final comments?
No, just really good experience. Had lots of fun. It's worthwhile.
Cool. Hope to see you at other ones.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this deck profile and interview for our North American. I keep saying invitational. North American International Championships. Like I said, we do have Niagara coming up soon and Pasadena at the end of the year. So other big events that are coming up. And a lot of the Yugi tubers, the content creators, like to go to those because most of them play as well. So if you're a fan of some of their channels, then you can possibly meet them. Or maybe when we go to some of these other large events, you can come and meet us. So yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here for the interview. Appreciate the deck profile. And we have a lot of other videos. Make sure that you like and subscribe and hit the follow button so that you don't miss out on any of the fun, cool stuff that we have coming up. This is Team Royal Flush. Thanks again for watching.